Welcome, everyone. You found Sanctuary's Coffee and Conversation Show. I'm Myrna Haskell, Executive Editor of Sanctuary Magazine. This is an online publication for women that empowers and inspires with a focus on the arts, philanthropy, health and wellness, culture, and community. You can find us at sanctuary-magazine.com. This morning, my guest is Megan Swan. She is founder of Megan Swan Wellness, and for the last 11 years, she's been on a mission to share her expertise with others so that they can learn to incorporate wellness into their everyday lives. Good morning, Megan. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me and for that lovely introduction. It's an
Oh,
honor.
it's wonderful to have you because your expertise is an absolute exact match with what our topic is today. So that's healthy habits for busy women. And so I wanted to dig in first to talk about these busy women. So just to start, I know that a lot of our listeners and readers, they're maybe working multiple jobs or they're entrepreneurs and then they're running off to pick up grandchildren, to watch them after school, or they have teens at home and they're also taking care of elderly parents. So I wanted to see what your thoughts are first for these busy women that are doing 1,000 things every day that just feel like, you know what, I want to do the wellness thing. I know I don't have the greatest habits, but I can't fit it into my day. What do you say to those women? Why do you think women feel that way today? Whatever you want to say about that.
Sure. Well, I mean, that's a great place to start, but also a massive conversation. So I think first off, it's really important to acknowledge that what I inspire mostly is to help people just be more intentional and present and embodied in what they're already doing and not necessarily add on or change a bunch of things. It's really important to just ask ourselves, how do I want to feel? And maybe it's not possible to, be that present. It's not possible to be that present the entire day, but just taking micro breaks, 2 minutes is not a lot of time, but when you get that cumulative effect of just taking 2 minutes a day to be a little bit more intentional about one thing in the wellness sphere. And the wellness sphere is so vast, right? So we could talk about what we're consuming and like all the ways of things we're consuming, not just nourishment, but what are we watching? What are we listening to? Who are the people that are influencing us? What are the types of environments we're spending a lot of time in? Everything from that, the physical, to the emotional, what is my inner dialogue? All these things that ultimately impact us deeply and really can affect our energy levels, our health, wellness, longevity in the long term when we're not being just a little bit more grounded, embodied, intentional about how we want to show up and how we want to feel on the day-to-day.
I love that word intentional you're using, because I think lots of times, and I know that's happens to me too, frequently, we get so caught up in the daily activities that the activities and the responsibilities start running us instead of the other way around. We're not even sometimes thinking about what we're doing. I'm sure all of you out there have been in the car driving. You're going from one place to the next, and all of a sudden you realize, where am I going? Like has that happened to you? All of a sudden you're on autopilot. And lots of times with me, it's because I'm thinking about 1,000 things and I'm not in the moment with what I'm doing right then, driving, right? I'm thinking about the 10 next things I have to do. And I mean, I'm being careful. Maybe I'm going the speed limit and all of that. But you know what I'm saying? I hear you about that intentional thing, because I think that's a big piece. How you're moving forward and being in the present and being intentional about what you're doing as opposed to all of that stuff running you, right?
Yeah, and that's what I refer to when I say, I use a tagline, wellness as a way of life, and opposed to thinking of a bunch of extra things you have on your to-do list in the wellness sphere, like trying to tick off boxes. Oh, I meditated. Oh, I exercised. Oh, I, slept well, all these things. It's not to say that they're not important, but I like to shift the perspective away from just, more bandwidth or more things on the to-do list, because that is what is ultimately really stressing us all out and bringing us down and making us feel like we're operating at 1,000 miles an hour and not able to be present in the day-to-day. And so I think just giving ourselves permission to it's not that you need to add anything in. I mean, over time, when I work with clients, like strategically, we add micro things, but it's not like, okay, let's do a 180 of your life to get to a different place. No, like that's just not realistic, sustainable, ideal. It's like you want to live your life to some degree how you're already living it. Otherwise you wouldn't be there.
Right.
So
And I think that brings in the overwhelm too, when they think of it that way, right? Too. Like a lot of folks anyway, time management isn't their top skill, maybe. And now they're thinking about fitting all these things in, right? So I wanted to get into with you, Megan, about the stress piece and how that fits all into this. Because when you are stressed out, that turns into a complete overwhelm, right? And then the overwhelm sort of overshadows everything else. And I know I've been in the position sometimes where I just want to shut everything down and go to bed. I mean, it can get to the point, we've all had those days, right? And so
yeah.
I guess so I love this idea that you say about it doesn't have to be like your list of things to do. I did my meditation, I fit in my, short cardio workout. I did this, I did this. And I think maybe, as you said, that's sort of adding to the stress. I don't know. I want to like dig in because I know that a lot of our listeners and readers are dealing with stress, and we all know that stress is a killer. I mean, stress ruins your health, right? Stress ruins your mindfulness and how you feel about being present every day. So anything you'd like to say about that?
Ooh, where do I start? Well,
I know,
I
right? I mean, stress. We've done a
well,
lot
I
on
mean,
stress, but I like to get everybody's perspective because I know, boom, that's going to hit somebody that's listening, with the different perspectives. So what's your perspective on that? How do you, maybe you
well,
want to
first
even talk about how you de-stress.
well, definitely, sure. But first, I invite like a useful reframe, because I feel like it's like an additional layer of stress, just thinking about how it's unavoidable stress. So I invite clients to reframe. It's like, no, there's healthy and unhealthy stress. Our body physically, emotionally, mentally, I would argue spiritually, in order for there to be growth, development, improvement, you need to be hitting up against something. When we're lifting weights, we understand that you need to lift a little bit heavier if you actually want to grow the muscle versus just keeping it alive, right? But regardless, you need to use it to keep it alive. And if we do nothing and if we actually had zero stress in our lives, it would be an atrophy situation. You'd be, shrinking.
Okay,
Mentally,
that's good. I hadn't
emotionally,
thought of
and
that.
physically,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's more about feeling, where can I feel a little bit more in control? And then back to this intentionality, like what kinds of stress do I invite and allow because, they're inevitable, or I somewhat like them. I sort of have this love-hate relationship between this activity that I know I like to do, but sometimes it's, overwhelming, or
Right.
and ultimately, the other piece that I really think is important to bring in is when we take better care of ourselves, in this, why I talk about optimizing our wellness, it makes it so much easier when these inevitable, massive, stressful situations that don't necessarily deal with on a day-to-day, but can happen, will happen within, like a decade period, a death in the family, a major relationship coming to close, shift in career, a pandemic,
Oh, yeah.
like these
Oh,
things
the
that aren't
pandemic.
that are not
That's several
predictable.
books, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, what I like to focus on is, okay, well, I can control how well I take care of me. And I do that so that I am better able to handle and manage and mitigate this inevitable stress, both the sort of day-to-day of like being a mom and being an entrepreneur and having different relationships both in the community and with friends and all these things, and then the knowing that I'm not going to spend a lot of energy worrying about the unknown. And I think one thing that really directs our attention and sort of leaks a lot of our energy is the news cycle, which kind of relies on us sitting in this fear energy of really paying attention to all of the potential bad things that are happening to people that we cannot help because we're not capable of helping everyone in the world at the same time. And so it's just layer upon layer of things that we feel out of control. So personally, I don't really watch the news. I find like I'm capable, you inevitably find out what's going on in the world to some degree without combing a lot of websites that are giving you bad news, right?
Yeah. And a lot of women are saying that now, Megan, they're turning things off because there's just so much angst out there and bad news and horrific things going on in the world. And it's easy to get caught up in that. And, it's like watching the car wreck, right, go by, and now you can't turn it off. And it's giving you all that negative energy. That's not good. But I also heard you say that you focus on the thing you can control, which is your wellness. You can't control what's going on in the world and this event that's going to happen to you. That's out there, but you can control how you approach it because you're already in this really good space with your own personal wellness, right? Am I hearing you right there?
Exactly. And I personally, and with clients, see like the more we prioritize taking care of ourselves on deeper and deeper level, different aspects of wellness, the easier it is to set these boundaries and be more honest with ourselves. Like, what is my capacity to show up? Do I want to? No. Okay. What's a kind way, unapologetically, of saying, no, I don't want to do that thing? And just like being back to more intentional is like, okay, you need to operate in the world, but you don't have to do it all. You don't have to do it all today. And just being clear with yourself first, and then how you communicate to others, lovingly, but not feeling this pressure and inevitable shame, maybe even of not wanting to do all the things that somebody said we're supposed to want to do, even when it comes to your wellness routine, right? Like,
Right.
I hope you're not doing some meditation retreat because somebody else told you to do it. Like, hopefully something is internally pulling you there. And I'm not love meditation retreats, don't get me wrong, but I feel like I'm working with a lot of women that are doing like this laundry list of
I know what you
things
mean.
around wellness. They're like taking 20 different supplements. Like, they've been taking one supplement for 20 years. They don't even remember like why they started taking it. And there's just layer upon layer of
Yes.
stuff going on that inevitably it's like a wellness burnout is happening.
Oh, I like how you put that, wellness burnout. Yeah, that's wow. Is there anything, Megan, you do? So just to bring back this stress piece, like some people experience panic attacks or they get really stressed before they have to talk in front of a group. And that's like, instead of just affecting the first few minutes before they have to do this thing or whatever, it's affecting their entire day. Do you have like a quick thing you can tell women to do? I don't know if it would be breath work or something that's like a 60 or 120-second thing that they can do to sort of bring themselves back into that intentionality, into that, I'm in the moment, I'm in the present, and I'm okay, I'm calm. Is there anything you want specifically you want to share?
Yeah. So Ariane Huffington talks about, sort of made this more public, well known, that you really only need 90 seconds to reset your central nervous system. So in 90 seconds, you can completely sort of shift your internal state of affairs when it comes to feeling like you're in a panic mode or you're extremely stressed or you can't handle something. So some things that I think are really simple and helpful, to your point, one is breath work, but like, don't think you need to, have a guided breath work meditation on your phone.
Okay.
Just take 10 deep breaths. One that's really great is alternative nostril breathing. It's a yoga. I've been a yoga teacher for
I know
almost
of
2
it,
decades
yes.
now. And so one yoga breath technique is alternative nostril breathing. It's actually an incredible, powerful tool for balancing our hormones as we're aging as women. And so just, you use your finger and your thumb, you get really into it, and eventually you can direct the air without needing to close off the airwaves. But in the beginning, you're just going to inhale one nostril, close it off, exhale the opposite nostril, inhale the same, exhale the opposite. So you're cycling your airflow back and forth through your nostril. And it does a lot of things. One, in order to do that, you need to focus on what you're doing. So you're in the present moment, whether you like it or not, right? Like you're automatically present.
Because you can't
It's
just do that. You have to think
breath
about it,
work, right?
right?
So
Left brain, I think too, right? Your fingers.
yeah,
Yeah. So it takes you out. You're forgetting about what that
exactly.
thing
So
was that was
you
totally stressing you out, probably, right?
yeah, exactly. So you're in it and you're doing the lunar and the solar side of your system. If you want to talk about Ayurvedic or Chinese medicine, you're also the right left brain. Like it's just so powerful. And if you can do that 10 breaths, you're going to be in a completely different headspace.
And so
Even more powerful if you
all you
can.
need is the 10 breaths then. See, people that are listening to this right now, they're like, oh my gosh, I can do that.
Yeah. And the more you can do it sort of in a moment, but I've done that while driving. I've done that while a plane's taking off. I've done
Oh,
it while standing in
yes.
line or like, having mid argument with one of my children. It's like, you know what? Just gonna breathe, see how
Okay.
I want to approach or, continue this conversation in a minute. I think it's hard to pull ourselves back sometimes
Yeah, it
and
is.
just
It is.
ground, but
So
it's
I
so
am
important.
hearing that you're saying a part of the problem is people know they need to incorporate wellness and it needs to become, so why I called this topic healthy habits for business women, busy women rather, is because I was thinking of trying to relay to our listeners that this is something that can become similar to put your seatbelts on before you start the car. It's just there. You're not thinking about it. You're not scheduling it. You're just, it's a lifestyle change. It just becomes part of who you are every day and how you live, right? That's ultimately where we want to be with it, right? So I wanted to talk a little bit about nutrition. I think that those who follow Sanctuary, we know we have to eat our fruits and vegetables, stay away from processed foods, buy your vegetables from your local farm, don't have too much sugar or, all these kinds of things that I think most people today, because there's a lot of information out there, know they need to do. But then we get again into the daily life, people are running, they're in their car, they didn't have time to make dinner from scratch. So I guess what I want this little piece about nutrition to be about is, what can we do? What are like fast and furious things that women can put together? They just have around. They can grab it to go in the car. It's in their refrigerator, their pantry. It's very healthy, but they're not feeling like, oh my gosh, it's another 2.5 hour project by the time I prepare the food, I eat the food, I clean up from the food. And it becomes this whole thing around the food instead of you're just nourishing your body healthfully and easily as part of your day. So anything you want to say about that nutrition piece that's not overwhelming for busy women, I guess.
Yeah. Do you want me to focus on sort of like a grab and go scenario
Yeah, let's do
or
grab
like
and
a
go or
meal?
anything else though, Megan. I mean, I don't want to stymie you with this topic. So whatever you think you want to share that's helpful.
Yeah, well, I think in the grab and go scenario, let's do that first. I think keep it simple. It's so easy, I think, to get in the habit of buying these packaged things that, are relatively healthy. They're better quality ingredients than maybe some other brand. But at the end of the day, just taking fresh fruit and vegetables, nuts, seeds, with you is so easy once you get into the habit. I think nuts particularly, I don't know even know about seed cycling, but just having
No.
more. So there are
What is seed cycling?
well
That's interesting. I haven't heard that before. So
so there are four, although there's differing opinions, but essentially some combination of sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, hemp seeds I use, and it'll come to me. You can incorporate chia, you can incorporate sorry, my Spanglish, calabaza. They're green. It'll come to me. Anyway,
okay.
the
But
point
these give
is
you energy. Is this an energy lifter too? Yes.
they give you an energy lift, and it's really important for our hormones to be consuming a good amount of these seeds. It's some kind of a thing that's sort of fallen off of.
It has.
Yeah, so sometimes a lot of clients just throw like all four, like a handful in their smoothies or on their salad. Some women find it more important or helpful to be really specific. There's a whole science, like which seeds at which part of your cycle or which part of the month that you're consuming to support yourself. Some of them are more better at boosting estrogen, others at progesterone. So I'm more of an ebb and flow girl in general. So it's just like, if I get it done and throw it where I can in my diet, I still feel better. And I'm not adding an extra layer of stress being like, oh, okay, this week needs to be this or whatever. So nuts and seeds in general are an incredible way. You have healthy fats, and that's a really great way to stay full and feel satisfied. Really great for, your hair, your skin, your nails, all these things.
So you're getting those benefits too, which is great.
It's just a really powerful option. And don't forget about this sort of more, I always just pay attention, like, there are seasons. You just can pay attention to price, really, for nuts and seeds. For example, Brazil nuts are an incredible source of so many things that we don't generally get. They're actually great for men as well. If you can get your husband to have a one Brazil nut per day, it can boost a lot of things. It's a whole other conversation.
Okay.
But they're also great for women. And it's more from this boosting of energy. And just like a half an avocado or a box of berries. Sometimes a lot of clients sort of give me resistance, like, okay, berries are so expensive. I'm like, how much did you spend on cheese and like all these other things? There's so much in a box of berries. And this is in summer, at least in North America, it's a little, they're more in season, they're fresher, it's more accessible. Yes. And so if
you're buying them in season too, because the different, so I'm in New York, so the different berries, are in season locally at different times during the summer. And then you're going to get a better price on them, if you're getting them when they're totally in season at your local farms and agricultural centers, right? So that's totally true. So that's some great advice there. But the exercise thing. So the exercise thing is a big problem for the younger crowd and the more mature crowd, because, let me just start out by saying, I'm not anti-gym, but I have known so many women, they go out, they get that, gym membership, and they want to go, they go the first maybe couple weeks or month, they're taking some exciting classes and stuff, and then they start realizing, oh my goodness, it's 20 minutes to the gym, and then I have to warm up, and then I'm taking my class, and then I'm taking my shower, and then I have to drive home. I've just heard this from so many women, and it starts to fall off because it's too much of a chunk of their day. So again, with the healthy habits, the whole seatbelt thing, just something quick you could do. I was wondering if you have any tips on just like, getting the circulation flowing, which is so important, or short cardio, or just, get away from the desk, like whatever you want to say that again can become a healthy habit we're not thinking about, that we're just doing every day. Is there anything there you want to tell listeners about that?
Yeah. So my third pillar in my 6 pillars of optimal wellness, first is sleep. Second is nourishment, which you kind of just touched on. Third is movement. And I really invite women in particular to just sort of rethink movement, scrap the whole stress around exercise. How can we be inviting more movement into our day-to-day?
Yes.
100 years ago, we were just so much more physical about, things we needed to do in the house, how far we had to go to buy things, not driving everywhere, all these little tiny things that over time, now we're very sedentary. So if you are someone who's working in front of a desk throughout the day, just take one meeting out walking in a park, or, at least standing and pacing. I often, if I'm not on camera, I'll be like sitting on a yoga mat and stretching as I'm in the meeting. Like, nobody knows what you're doing if it's not on camera, right? So you can just walk around. You can do a little bit more intentional breathing, or just be more intentional about how you're sitting. All of this awareness that you're bringing to the body is really impactful over time. And I invite more the perspective of, okay, functional movement. What do I want to be able to do when I'm 80? or at least when I'm 60, right? Let's say 80, because I feel like 60 is the new 40
60
is
is
the
the
new,
new
etc.
40.
So at 80, I want to be, I'm 44 now. So in my mind, my kids are 8 and 10, and the way that things are going, I'm planning on being here till about 120. So I'm like, I'm in the
Yay.
first third of my life, right? So at 80, hopefully I'll have some grandchildren coming into the world, or, being intentional. I want to still be able to walk 5K. I want to be able to carry my groceries, go to a market and be able to shop and carry my own things, put my what is it called, my suitcase, carry-on suitcase up in the overhead bin.
Right. Yeah.
Just little sort
Those
of like,
every
go
day.
up 5 flights of stairs because there's no
Yes.
elevator. These little things that if you're not being intentional now about how can you work more of that type of, which there's nothing wrong with the gym, but if it doesn't speak to you, it's not going to be sustainable. You're not going to stick with it. So
Right.
go find a park you like, go for a walk with a friend in the park. Or, here in Mexico, there's so many cool things that they do in the park for exercise. There's like a Zumba class and different types of exercise that they do in community, which I think is another great way to sort of get it into your mix. Like, just maybe you want to take a dance class, tango, or just something, and think
So
of
you're
it like,
incorporating into the fun part of your week or your day or whatever too, right? Or maybe not just go to the cafeteria to eat the lunch, maybe take a little walk first, like things like that are actually, you're not taking time out of the regular part of the day that has to be scheduled due to responsibility in your job or whatever it is, but you're moving, you're keeping that movement all day. I've been doing a lot of, I just had a conversation with my daughter about this. I've been doing a lot of reading on this, that, the movement throughout the day versus, you sit all day for 10 hours, do nothing else, and then do a quick, like 45-minute treadmill. And that's not going to bring you as much health as you're just moving throughout the day because you've incorporated, a healthy lifestyle throughout your day where you're not just sitting. You're getting
yeah.
up
So
from
I
the
mean,
desk, as you said.
even cooking is a great example. I sometimes work with women and they're like, oh, I'm just like, I don't have energy to cook, or the grocery shopping. Like, all of those things are an opportunity to be standing intentional. Maybe you have music on, so you're like doing a little bit of sway. There's just like a little bit of movement and awareness of your body and space. I can stand in line at the airport and make it this most annoying, like slouchy kind of experience, or I can intentionally stand on my feet, make it a little bit of a yoga practice, right? Like, I'm grounding my feet, I'm figuring or noticing how I can manipulate where I'm standing on the floor and pulling some energy up the inner legs. Can I feel my pelvis in space? I don't know, just like a body scan, and you're already more aware, you're more in the present moment, and you're being more intentional about sort of drawing some movement and an opportunity for strength training or flexibility, or these things that we know we need, that naturally just going about our day to day on a farm,
Right.
or not even, you
Or
would
even
get.
taking the stairs if you can and you don't have problems with your knees or whatever, instead of the elevator, or parking further away from the store, which, by the way, is always a good thing too, especially if you have a new car, right?
Yes.
Why, pull into that parking space where you only have 2 inches on either side, take the walk, park further away. And with those kinds of things, I think I'm hearing you saying that whole intentional, regularly incorporated things that you teach your clients. Actually, speaking of your clients, I wanted to give you a moment or two to tell our listeners a little bit more about the services you offer. I heard you mention your 6 different, whatever you want to say about your practice. Megan Swan Wellness, what would you like to tell listeners?
Sure. So I work with all sorts of high performance humans. I work mostly with women, but also with gender expansive, and I've worked with some very lovely men as well. But women tend to gravitate to my wellness philosophy. I talk about integrated, sustainable wellness. I really want to get you to a point where you feel like wellness is a way of life and not an extra check mark on your to-do list.
Right.
And the way we do that, it's
Huge.
also so much about the fact that there is no one size fits all wellness. Anytime that you're encountering someone that seems to have like the end all be all solution, if you just do XYZ in this amount of days and it's going to work the same for everyone, you know, that is a major red flag. We are so individual and personal, whether we're talking about our stage in life, our level of activity, our blood type, our gender, where we're living in the world. Like there's just so many things that play into, and ultimately our personality and our lifestyle as it is. We want it to fit into who we are and really serve us personally, and shed the guilt and pressure
Big,
of doing
yeah.
it because some expert said it's, you know, the end all beat all new wellness trend. So it's
Good.
more, it's a less is more approach. And I work generally 6 months one-on-one coaching with women. And I also have a course for those who want to do sort of more of a work at your own pace, but, you know, get a really good base at how to apply these things on the day-to-day. It's really, I don't know, I've been working on it for a year. I've ran it several times with beta groups and gotten really great feedback. And I think I'm very proud of it. So it's called Wellness is a Way of Life. It's 12 modules and it's mostly audio. I also wanted to make it something that you can kind of, you know, take with you. You can listen to while you're cooking. You can listen to on a walk. And it's, again, really potent and distilled, really encouraging women to ask the question, like, where did I get these stories that I tell myself about XYZ aspect of how I should live my life, or what is wellness, or what is healthy, and really get grounded, embodied, more intentional, and tune in and bring back that personal agency. Like ultimately, you are the expert of your own wellness, of your body, far beyond anybody else. So it's bringing that power back to the individual to shift what they want to shift and what they can shift, and then just, you know, not feel guilty about all the stuff that they don't want to do or that's not meant for them.
Well, I think that's a great way to close this off. I mean, we could talk for 2 hours about all of this stuff, right? So listeners, we're going to have Megan's URL at the end so that you can actually go to her website and dig in a little bit more to the details and take a look at her course and all of that to get more information. But I wanted to thank you so much, Megan, for joining me today. This has been terrific. And I'll
Thank
close
you.
as I always do by wishing all of our listeners and our readers good health, happiness, and continued inspiration. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.